Perfect. All right. Well, I think we might as well just go ahead and get started. I'm Liam Nelson, in case any of you don't know who I am from Jason's wonderful promotion and haven't seen the stuff that he's been posting. I really appreciate the opportunity to perform again. It's been real touch and go. I started doing stand-up comedy about 6 months ago, and then right when I feel like I was hitting kind of a stride, he was starting to feel like I was really part of the community and doing it, most nights. This fun stuff all happened. So it's good to see how the Atlanta community's kind of rallied and come back from it and tried to, keep some sort of comedy in the city of Atlanta. I know a lot of you won't be able to get the same impression digitally because the camera is on my level because I set it there. But I am 7 feet tall. That's an important little bit of context to really understand a lot of what I talk about. 7 feet. It's an interesting life. Sometimes I feel like a mythical creature because whoever built everything didn't think I existed. I can't shit on planes. Just can't do it. My femur is just too long. I get about here and we're done. That's all we got. Last time I tried to do it, I was desperate, and I had to do it with the door open. It's real intimate with everyone else on the plane, knees poking out in the aisle. Every time someone walks by, you gotta do like the white guy, like, how's it going? Don't mind me. How's it going? I've been considering pursuing a life of crime. If you can't tell by looking at me, I'm wearing a jean shirt, so I'm tough. If anyone would like the smoke, meet me round back. I've been considering pursuing a life of crime. Not sure about it, though, because I'm not sure how I'd fare in prison. I'm not worried that I'd be a prison bitch, because that's kind of implied. I'm worried I'd be a novelty prison bitch. Like, it'd be far too collectible for my own good. Like the blue eyes white dragon of prison bitches. They'd be trading me around like, oh, I'll trade you my big fucking furry one for your two little Mexicans. Like, we'll make a deal. I'm also worried that they would never want to use me. They just want to keep me in a glass case to preserve my value, never break my seal. It's my asshole, in case anyone's not familiar with how prison bitches work. I wouldn't know. Never been one, but very well informed. Man, this is very different to perform in a room by yourself. So like I mentioned before, I've been doing comedy for 6 months. I started out shooting for a lot of comics, which has been an awesome opportunity to meet people around the scene. It leads to a lot of very interesting interactions with people. Not as much with comics, but with just normal people out on the street. I get a variety of weird questions, my favorite of which is a two-parter. First part is, are you on stilts? Yep, here I am in the deli aisle of a Publix, just circus performing. And the second part of that question, when I say no, that'd be silly, they say, prove it. Because my word is garbage, apparently. I have to lift my pant leg for a grown adult to show them that I am not on planks of wood forever. So that's, love being treated like a spectacle. I was in Chicago, and a woman walks up to me. She's like, oh, excuse me, I'm a tourist. Can I have a photo with you? I'd like to imagine the Chicago tour that includes, and if you look to your left, you'll see that tall fucking guy on the corner. Feel free to take your photos. I can make some money, market that. I wish freak shows were still a thing, because that'd be a great backup career if I had just decided to do absolutely nothing with my life, get paid for people to gawk at me, which is what they do already. I think my real backup plan, if this whole film and comedy thing doesn't work out, I think I'm gonna just find an undiscovered island with a tribe that's never seen a white person, let alone this much of a white person before, and just hope for the best, you know? Just hopefully they'll make me their king, or they'll, cook me. You never know. I have I am from a white family, if you could not tell by all of this, which means I have two white parents, and I am from Atlanta, Georgia. I have two very liberal white parents. My mom is the type of person who speaks in a Spanish accent to her chihuahua because that is the most ethnic person in her life. And my dad is a movie theater commentator, professional. He's very professional. We were seeing a documentary about a man who was hiking and touched a bear who had been killed by a live wire, and it electrocuted him, and he had to amputate his arm. And he was a chef, so it really had a huge impact on his career. And in the middle of the theater, during right after the moment where he realized he lost his arm, my dad decides to say, "Don't poke the bear." Appropriate, gotta just in that moment you had to let it out. That sometimes the dad jokes just bubble up and you just can't hold them in. So having an Asian sister and a mother who has a diversified friend group and need to that over compensation, old middle-aged liberal kind of mentality of oh, my close family is racist, so let me just try too hard not to be, to the point where it's kind of just canceling it out. Whenever I'm out and about in public with my sister and my mom sees another Asian person, she feels the need to point out every other Asian person in public to my sister. My sister is 14. She knows what Asian people are by now, I hope. Don't know really what she expected. I just like to imagine the conversation in her head being well, I'm just gonna remind her that her people, her support system is everywhere. Never really, she doesn't care. She's seen, we live in a major city. We've seen Asian people before. So, she feels the need to point out every other Asian person, and lately I've been tempted, before this whole corona thing happened, whenever I'm out with my mom, and I see another woman in her mid-50s with a zany outfit on, I want to lean over and be like, "Look, Mom, she's desperately clinging to youth, too." Take that, Mom. It feels much meaner in the studio by myself. So, growing up with an Asian sister when you are a 7-foot-tall white boy, when I introduce myself to people and introduce her as my sister, there's always that one moment where you see them doing the math in their head, which one of you is imported? Where are you from? The Netherlands? Are you from China? What's happening here? And I like to imagine a scenario where a small Asian family adopted me. Classic Clifford the Big Red Dog scenario. You go and get a little bundle of joy in the hopes of, having this new member of the family, and then within a year or two, you have a monster eating you out of house and home. Getting just all this. That'd be terrifying. I would feel bad for them. So I had a weird first job. I know a lot of people have weird first jobs. I'm not alone in that. My job was weird because I worked at an Italian restaurant that the signature dish, you probably know it if you live in Atlanta, Scalini's. The signature dish is an eggplant parmesan that is supposed to induce labor. So who knew that a 15-year-old me would have to learn conflict resolution so quickly when a room full of 50 pregnant women all want their food right now? Yeah, it's not. It's a lot to expect. I don't know if you've ever been grabbed by the skin of your neck like a cat. It does not. It makes you feel real small, and you want to bring that person whatever they ask you for, just so that'll never happen again. It had good pay though. I stuck around because I would get a $25 bonus every time I helped deliver a baby in the bathroom. I never, had any of the hands-on stuff. That's for the professionals who were also on staff. We had a couple waiters who were EMTs, and they would also get a bonus for actually delivering the baby. And whoever got roped into it got to be the towel boy. So I got to run back and forth and basically be a nurse, but in an Italian restaurant bathroom. So, I can put nurse on my resume, I feel like now. I should just open up like a birthing center in that bathroom, because it, like, 3 or 4 times over the course of like the year and a half I worked there. It's real. When your clientele is very pregnant women, it's a whole new world. So I quit that job because it was far too dangerous, and did something much safer, which is unlicensed electrical work. I did LED retrofitting, so we took old fluorescent fixtures and turned them into newer LED fixtures to save people money and all that. And I learned this profession from a man who was blind, a blind Jamaican man. His name was Nick. He, I learned how to do it, but not in the way that I think he intended to teach me, because I just watched that man electrocute himself 10 to 15 times per fixture, but I guess his hands were numb, and he didn't have the ability to see, so he thought he was doing great. So I learned what not to do. That whole phrase, like the blind leading the blind, it's much less funny when you're the blind being led, because I was not blind and could clearly see that he was on the verge of electrocuting himself. Nick was an interesting person to work with. I only worked with him for a few weeks before he was canned, unfortunately. So I'd say like the first week, he taught me a lot about the installations. But then the next week, we went on a job together, like out, we went out to, I think it was like a dentist office, and he, Nick liked reggae music. He didn't like the type of reggae music you would think he would like. Being from Jamaica, he only listened to like the greatest hits of Bob Marley, none of the deep cuts. You'd think like growing up there, you'd be like, oh, I like these songs because it's, I know the culture. No, just Three Little Birds, Buffalo Soldier, maybe One Love were his only options. And he refused to use earbuds because they made his ears claustrophobic. I love the logic there. Just like, I wish I had that kind of fuck you attitude to where I could justify just not ever privately enjoying anything. Because his ears got claustrophobic and he wanted to hear his Bob Marley and had a very quiet, his phone was too quiet, I guess, to just listen to. He would always find the nearest speaker or some sort of system in the office, belonging to the office, to plug his music into to play throughout the entire building. We worked on weekdays usually, so it would just be a bunch of, we'd get maybe like 30 minutes of the same 3 songs before someone came and found us, because it was One Love playing over like the school announcement style PA, like there's only so much you can take of that. So I quit that, and now I do comedy and video production, so really coming on up in the world. Another thing, I do some weirder things for money as well. Those were just like my main jobs. My side hustles are they get a little even more out there. I think my favorite side hustle I do is I am a professional Chewbacca. I don't own the suit. A man gives me a fursuit, sends me to a party, and I Chewbacca there. It does get a little dangerous because I am not allowed to break character. So whenever I'm out at a frat party and they ask me, hey, dude, you want to do a keg stand? My only response is, and apparently that sounds like a resounding yes. So I just keep doing them. And it also apparently sounds very similar to what it sounds like when I start to drown in beer. So it's just kind of doing charades and hoping for the best. Speaking of charades, there's when you go to a new country, there's always these like little phrases you need to know to like get around. Like where's the toilet? Can I have this to eat? I am going to share with you guys the 3 phrases that I found are most useful in, I'd say, like bad sign language or charades, Chewbacca-ese, because so these are basically the phrases that when I am Chewbacca, I get to use the most, and they keep me from being too much in danger. The first one is, that means don't hand me your baby. Please, God, don't hand me your baby. I will drop it. The second one is, that means please don't grab my genitals. I'm not a toy. And then the third one is, that means get off my back. Please. I'm not strong. I'm not strong. Yeah, it's a war zone out there. Let's see, what else do I want to talk about? I want to keep it rolling here. Let me see see if anyone has any. Okay, great. Let's do. Apologies for the break in the. Oh, here's a new thing. I wanted to try some new stuff because I haven't been able to do open mics in a while, and I think this is a great opportunity, just to get some material out in the world. I was hanging out with my girlfriend the other day because that's all you do now, and we were listening to some old like Andrew Sisters songs, and it was a radio station, so it did Andrew Sisters, it did a bunch of old that era of music, and we realized something that I guess I had just never acknowledged before. But why do all of the movies and songs of that era have just a guy at the end who comes in and just says the same thing again? He's like, oh, well, now that story's all wrapped up. It's like, time goes by. Like, if the song's Time Goes By, well, time really does go by now. Thank y'all for coming in. It's like, why? Who is this man? And I think it's the same guy. Is that just the guy? They're like, these fucking women clearly didn't get that message across in that 3-minute song. Better send the man in to explain it concisely. It's like, who? Why? Who is? I feel like the animated Fox did a good job of telling me about that story. I don't need a man to come in and tell it again, Yeah, so that's a new little observation I got here. Let's see, what else are we doing? Everyone's been shaving their heads during this quarantine. And my girlfriend and I were talking about it. You're going to hear a lot about her because that's pretty much the only person I've been talking to recently. We were talking about shaving our heads because, just in the abstract, she's definitely more on the side of wanting to do it. But I was like, I have long hair. If you can't tell, it's up right now, but it's, down to about my shoulders, curly. And I was like, I've never really had a shaved head. I mean, the shortest my hair has been, I used to have it short when I was like 15, but I've grown it out and haven't really cut it significantly since. So I was like, well, now would be the time to shave my head. And she's like, well, I'm probably going to shave mine. What if we do it together? And we both kind of took a moment and we're like, what? Okay, but I don't think we can do that. Because if one white person shaves their head, then it's, like a quirky, quarantine. Oh, I wanted to see what my shaved head looks like. If two white people who live in the same home both shave their head, it's a movement. And you just, no, it's something white power related, and we don't want any of that. You gotta, one at a time on the head shaving. You gotta space it out by like at least a week, so they're at least fuzzy by the time that you're shaving. You can't all be skinheads, I'm really excited to see what everyone looks like coming out of quarantine, because there's gonna be some people with some messed up haircuts. Like, oh boy. Yeah, it's gonna be I think picture day for every organization should be the day after quarantine, just so we remember this moment forever. So something that's been really getting on my nerves lately, my dad, like I mentioned before, he, is he's a very bold man. He loves to communicate with the entire family. He's that dad, the one that's like, I got to keep everyone in the loop on everything we're doing, especially during quarantine. He'll periodically go back through his phone and find old pictures that he'll send to every member of my entire family, all in one group chat. Yeah. It's like a terrible family a terrible family reunion in your pocket that you cannot escape from, because if you block them, then you just can't talk to your family again. So I get to see him post a picture, and then 45 people's "oh, that's so cute" response to that picture, and it's kind of driving me crazy. I've had to basically block my dad's number so he can't add me to new group chats, because that is a punishment I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. I have a Samsung phone. I can't just mute group chats. It doesn't work that way. I just have to be barraged by message after message from numbers that I don't know. How he has all these numbers, I have no idea. He kept up with great aunt Carol, who we haven't seen since I was 2. And, every comment on these pictures, he'll share a photo of me and my sister from a couple of years ago. And every comment is like the digital version of someone coming up and squeezing your cheeks and being like, "You probably don't remember me, but I remember when you were so small." It's like, okay, great. And they do that on every photo that's shared. So it's just, love this digital age where everyone's so close to you all the time. All right, yeah. What else are we going to talk about? I went skiing with my family recently. Something which is I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I said that. I realize that is the widest thing to say. We went to Big Sky, Montana, which is, if you know anything about Big Sky, Montana, beautiful, love it, one of my favorite places in the world, but also it's like one of those places like Aspen where just a lot of the people just kind of suck. We went skiing, and I've been doing it in the most it's like I'm punishing myself, because we go skiing every 6 years. So we'll go for a grand total of 2 or 3 days of actual skiing per trip. So I will get just to the point where I'm not falling on my ass constantly, and then we go home for 7 years. So it's just a constant struggle of me relearning how to ski every year. And I'm going to just come out and say it, skiing is dumb. Any sport where I'm not fit, but a 20-year-old man with general control of his limbs can get dusted by a 90-plus-year-old woman is not a sport. It's not valid. Why? Why do people love this so much? I guess because it doesn't require any real muscle or any. It's not like an athletic thing. It's just, can you not fall down while going real fast? And I just cannot. I am too far above the ground, and when I do fall, I imagine marvelous, because I just fully garage sale, just eat shit every time. Yeah, last time I fell, I got snow shot into my face by a 90-plus-year-old woman who was going 55 down the mountain. So, I'm just a little mad. I'm just a little mad that that's a sport that exists, Let's see. I think I'm going to go until 10:15. Just get a bunch of new material out here. So, Jason, I hope you don't mind. So there was that video a little while back that was the woman who had her seat reclined and the guy punching it. Um, you know, if you can judge by my earlier story of how I cannot shit on planes, planes are not exactly the easiest experience for me. I don't enjoy flying. I do it a lot, but I don't enjoy it really because it's just a fight to just not be horribly uncomfortable because I have a genetic disorder which causes a lot of chronic pain, and also I'm too big for a plane. Just too big. First class, no. Comfort, no. Only emergency row exits. Like, emergency exit seats is the only way I can fly. So, there was that whole public backlash where, some of the people were like, oh, that lady is the worst. Oh, that guy is the worst. I think they're both a little bit right. I think the lady is the worst, obviously, from my point of view, because don't do that. You got a seat area. I don't know why they still let people recline seats, because it's just mean. Unless you have like a 3-year-old behind you, you're just collapsing the person sitting behind you, just shrinking their spine for a while. But, punching someone's seat, that's just not the best optics, I have run into this situation before where someone will recline a seat fully knowing that there is a 7-foot-tall man in coach sitting behind them, and when they, the only time they can do it is when they catch me off guard, because normally my knees are pressed firmly against the back of the seat in front of me because that's the only place they can be. But if I, have them swung out in the aisle for some reason and they come back, then I just can't be in my seat anymore. So I, instead of punching a seat like a child, I will just, go up behind them and just whisper sweet nothings like, hey, excuse me, my legs are gonna break if you keep doing that. So please sit up, please. That tends to work a lot better if you just, maybe throw some waterworks in there, just you start to cry. When a grown man starts cry whispering into your ear, you don't want to be any closer to that man than you have to be. So think, guy, then people wouldn't hate you. I was flying with my cousin who had never flown before. He was about, I think it was like 6. And whenever we both got on the plane, he was like, oh, I've seen on all these TV shows that, you can go up to the cockpit and the pilots will give you little wings, and, and I used to love doing that as a kid. So I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. And then we take a left instead of a right whenever you're getting on the plane, whenever and there's a cockpit. I was like, hey, my little cousin would love to see the cockpit. And the look that I got from that flight attendant just took me straight back to reality. Because, most of the time I'm like, I am well-intentioned. The fact that I don't mean you any harm should be conveyed just always through my body language. I shouldn't have to worry about looking scary. But, I forget that I do look a little scary. They wipe my hands down for bomb juice every time I go through TSA. Not really sure they're going to want me in the place where they fly the plane. They're like, oh, yes, come, large bearded man. Come to the cockpit, the place where the pilots are, past this shotgun-proof door. So, he got to go up there. I had to sit politely back in coach. But all I'm saying is if I were trying to take down a plane, I would send the kid with the weapons, because I know better, So anyway, let's see. What else we going to talk about? I was okay. Yeah, I was. So that same skiing trip, I was with my grandparents because they have the house out in Montana, and you know how when your entire family collectively decides that some person shouldn't drive, but everyone's also like, I'm not gonna tell him not to drive anymore because he pays for my meals. Well, that is the case with my grandfather. We've finally gotten to the point where he won't drive at night, but that decision was reached during this trip, we all have to pack into this, big SUV car where I usually have to be in the trunk because I don't really fit in the middle seats, and there's, too many people to sit, in the front. So I have had the pleasure of becoming a human backup camera, but the problem is, he's blind, but also more so deaf. So I just get to sit in the back and scream at nothing, and be like, "You're currently crashing the car. The car is crashing. You are running into a fence. The fence. You're just taking the fence is still. You're still running into it. Nothing changes, but I feel like a hero. So that's when we took a little piece of construction fencing all the way around the parking lot. That's when we were like, all right, maybe not at night, but just give him the keys in the daytime. Let him have his thrills. Take us off the cliff on this windy mountain road. That's fine. Well, we don't need to live that bad, right? We just need for him not to be upset more. Yeah. So, yeah. What else has been happening lately? This is feeling really good. Getting to perform again. I've been kind of. So I work. My main job. I wouldn't consider it my main job. One of my main projects right now, because I'm a freelance producer, I work with the former voice and puppeteer for Kermit the Frog and Ernie and a bunch of other Muppet characters. We do a new live show together out of this same studio with this same setup. That's why I have all of these things in here. Which, it's a internet troll character. So he's, a small little Muppet-looking character. And every show we have this little mid-show sequence that's a big musical number. It involves a lot of costumes. It's that one character dressing up in all these roles. So we'll do like a parody of Stranger Things, and he'll dress like each one of the Stranger Things kids in the show, and then we'll just shoot it like 5 times against a green screen and put it all together. So it's really, low budget, but it's been really fun. With those costuming requirements, he is a 60-year-old man who needs to go to a Goodwill or a baby clothes store and ask for their 18-month-old size clothing. Just an old man with long gray hair being like, "Hey, where you keep the baby clothes?" And the first time I went with him to go shopping, I left. I left him at the register because I did not want to get put on the same list that he is definitely on. Because what old man needs like 50 outfits a year for an 18-month-old who never gets any bigger? Right? Like either he's got a doll that he does some stuff to, or it's just not. He has some formerly living creature that size that's no longer living or growing. There's no good outcome of that except for the puppet one, but an old man doesn't walk into a baby clothes store and you're like, he's clearly trying to costume his puppets. Even if he is, that's more concerning, not less concerning for sure. So it's not, he has to make some sacrifices, but it works. Let's see. Let's do one last one. So I have a genetic disorder called Marfan syndrome. It basically makes all of my connective tissue that holds my body together more fundamentally elastic and flawed. I want to talk about this and raise awareness for it because if you see a person like me out in public, it's important that they get diagnosed because they can live a much fuller life after being diagnosed as long as they can keep their own physical limits in check. The reason I'm bringing this up now is it was recently February, which is Marfan Awareness Month, the month that everyone knows is Marfan Awareness Month. So glad that we got our own month that wasn't taken by anybody yet. I get to be that guy on my Facebook page amongst all the Black History Month posts being like, but remember, excuse me, white man aching over here. I ache as well. Don't forget about me. Like, Oh God, my chronic pain is similar to the chronic pain that your people felt for centuries. It's not a good look, not a good look. Give me money as well. We got to fundraise. It's not a great look for me. But having a disorder like Marfan syndrome can often make you feel gypped, or like things are unfair. I felt especially gypped when 3 months after my 18th birthday, I found out that I could have had a Make-A-Wish. Fucking nobody told me. No one wanted to tell me that I could have had a Make-A-Wish. That is mean. That is mean. That's mean. Yeah. So, well, here's the thing. So I wouldn't have gotten a full Make-A-Wish because I am not dying nearly fast enough for one of those. I can live a pretty full life. I would have gotten what I like to call a Choose-A-Wish, which is a generic brand of a Make-A-Wish, where basically they say you can choose between either meeting any C-list celebrity on our payroll or going to Disney World. So if you're a 9-year-old who wants to ride Thunder Mountain with a heart condition or meet Tony Shalhoub, it's your lucky day. Yeah, no, it's who knew that there was a hierarchy in the Make-A-Wish crowd, What? Jesus. Yeah, so that, causes some issues because I help, I work at a conference for kids with Marfan syndrome, and a lot of times these kids, there's this thing called neonatal Marfan syndrome, which is a much more severe case, and they typically don't make it past like 9 or 10. So they qualify for the real Make-A-Wishes, like the full-blown Make-A-Wishes, and they will not stop flexing on the other kids about it. They will bully the kids who aren't dying about not dying fast enough because they got to, take a helicopter ride with Tom Cruise or plant a garden with Amy Adams. Like, they all have these buttons that say what they did, so they come in all high and mighty. They come rolling in. I mean, I guess you wouldn't say high and low and frail, but just so confident. And they bully these other kids about not dying fast enough, which is an insane. It's like, how do you even address that as a chaperone? Like, no, but because you don't want to hurt their feelings, but you also don't want the other kids' feelings to be hurt. So sometimes you just got to find that balance of not doing anything at all and just subtly being like, hey, maybe just be a little less mean about it. But yeah, it's a weird line that I have to walk. One of the kids, his name is Owen. He got to take a helicopter ride with Tom Cruise, and he will not shut the fuck up about it. He is now 19. He took this helicopter ride when he was 10. He made a deal with Make-A-Wish. They said, and then we'll give you a helicopter ride with Tom Cruise. All I'm saying is he didn't hold up his end of the bargain. The Make-A-Wish got ripped the fuck off, is what I'm saying. Maybe just getting a couple people on staff to just make sure that doesn't happen again. I'm not saying, I'm not saying anything. Yeah. Last, I think I'll end here. My favorite little thing to end on. Despite my stature, I'm what you'd call a pussy. Not necessarily what you would call a pussy. What my uncle would call a pussy. When I ordered a strawberry daiquiri one time, because found out real men just have vitamin deficiencies. We didn't jump straight to pussy. He started by calling me soft when I put on sunscreen one time, because apparently fruit is for women and the sun is conquerable. So, all right. Well, thank you guys so much for having me on this fun little live stream tonight. I look forward to performing again in the near future. I'm going to try to have a whole new repertoire by then. Keep those creative juices flowing. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much, and have a great night. Stay safe. Stay inside. Wash your hands. Thank you guys.